The entire Fever payroll is $1.2 million.
Less.
That is less than the minimum salary for a single NBA player with a year's experience.
Let me just put it into context a little bit because it does seem terribly unfair, right? The salary amount.
Yeah.
Caitlin Clark is indeed one of the most prominent college basketball stars, known for her scoring ability, incredible range, and playmaking. However, if she's earning $76,000 in her first WNBA season, it highlights the league's salary structure compared to other earning opportunities many top female athletes, including Clark, maximize their income through NIL, name, image, and likeness deals while still in college. For someone of her caliber, NIL deals can be worth far more than rookie WNBA contracts, which are capped under the league's collective bargaining agreement. For instance, Clark has likely secured significant NIL deals with brands eager to align with her talent and marketability. The reported $76,000 with the Indiana Fever would be a reflection of the WNBA's salary caps, rather than the full extent of her earning power. Off-court opportunities, like endorsements and personal brand growth, will likely dwarf that figure.
Why Caitlin Clark's WNBA salary is sparking major debate.
With the first pick in the 2024 WNBA draft, the Indiana Fever select Caitlin Clark, University of Iowa.
Excitement hitting a fever pitch as basketball superstar Caitlin Clark officially launches her WNBA career.
I've dreamed of this moment since I was in second grade, and it's taken a lot of hard work, a lot of ups and downs, but more than anything, just trying to soak it in.
Yes, that's a stark contrast. The fact that the entire payroll for the Indiana Fever is $1.2 million, while a single NBA player with just 1 year of experience might earn more shows just how different the financial landscapes are between the WNBA and NBA. The WNBA has significantly lower salary caps, which means even the top stars like Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, or Breanna Stewart earn a fraction of what their male counterparts make. For example, NBA players are able to earn much more due to the league's massive television deals, sponsorships, and overall revenue, which is orders of magnitude larger than the WNBA's, as you noted. This discrepancy highlights the challenges faced by female athletes in basketball, despite growing recognition and marketability. However, many WNBA players are finding ways to supplement their earnings through endorsements, social media, and other ventures, similar to the way Clark is leveraging her NIL deals. The growing attention to these disparities is one reason why there's a push for better pay and better opportunities for women in sports.
Caitlin Clark, we got to start with her. No question goes number one last night. But for her rookie season, she's only making $76,000. I say only, but that's just in comparison to other NBA players and WNBA players. What does that say about the pay gap in women's sports?
Stephanie, it says that the nation is now going to wake up to the inequality in terms of pay, and it will change. The media rights deal for the WNBA is up. There will be negotiations, and Caitlin Clark will change that as well.
The issue of pay disparity for female athletes in the WNBA, despite the league's growing popularity and strong fan base, is a significant and ongoing conversation. The event you mentioned, where Caitlin Clark was involved in a physical altercation during a WNBA playoff game, brings to light the way athletes, especially women, often find themselves having to navigate issues beyond just their sport. It's unfortunate that incidents like the one you described in your own life, being impacted by an accident and facing challenges with insurance, often feel similar to the hurdles female athletes face when advocating for better pay and recognition in their careers. The WNBA, like many women's sports leagues, has struggled with balancing its increasing viewership and fan support with the revenue needed to boost salaries to levels comparable to male-dominated leagues. The reasons behind this discrepancy include historically lower investments in women's sports, less lucrative broadcasting deals, and fewer sponsorship opportunities. Despite a growing cultural shift that's moving toward greater equality in sports, athletes like Caitlin Clark are breaking barriers, not only in terms of their performance, but also in how they leverage their marketability through NIL deals. As more visibility is given to female athletes, this will likely push the WNBA and other leagues toward greater equity in compensation. The financial gap remains wide, but the increased attention to these issues, along with ongoing activism from players, could eventually lead to better salaries for women in sports, aligning more closely with the revenue they help generate. As you mentioned, the WNBA's strong fan base and viewership should create a clearer path toward fairer pay, especially as brands and sponsors start recognizing the potential of investing in women's sports. When this starts to match the cultural momentum for change, female athletes will hopefully start getting paid what they truly deserve.
But really, this is all about capitalism. I mean, for a generation, people have ignored the WNBA. They haven't bought tickets, they haven't watched, they haven't bought the products they're seeing on the commercials, and everything changes. I think the eyeballs on this number, $76,000. Now, again, she's making much more than that. Her endorsements are into the millions. There's also a chance of having $250,000 contract or addition for marketing the WNBA. I'm sure she'll get that as well.
You're absolutely right. ESPN and other major networks under the Disney umbrella have indeed taken strides to promote women's sports, including increased coverage of the WNBA and other women's leagues. However, there's still much more to be done. With the upcoming broadcasting deals, particularly the renewal of media contracts, there is a real opportunity for networks like ESPN to boost visibility and, as a result, generate more revenue for women's sports, which could lead to increased player salaries. The increase in player salaries from the 2020 collective bargaining agreement was a significant step forward. A 53% rise is no small feat, but as you pointed out, it also underscores just how far behind the WNBA players were compared to their male counterparts in terms of pay and treatment. The reality is that while salaries have improved, the financial structure of the league still lags far behind the NBA, and this is often reflected in the conditions players face, like cramped travel and lower quality accommodations, improved travel, better facilities, and better financial compensation for players are all critical for the growth of the league and the continued improvement of the women's professional sports experience. As viewership grows, and as more people advocate for the value of women's sports, broadcasting deals like the one you mentioned can be a turning point in providing the league with the resources needed to match the growing demand. This could lead to higher salaries, better conditions for players, and an overall more equitable environment for women in sports. The increased attention and investment in women's sports, along with growing fan bases, create a strong case for why salaries and conditions need to rise. It's clear that networks, players, and advocates need to keep pushing for these improvements to ensure female athletes are compensated and treated fairly.
She's going to be a multimillionaire, but it's shining a light on something that we should be looking at. Title IX is, of course, applying to high schools and colleges. This is about capitalism. This is about Americans spending their money in a certain way. And that's going to change because of the eyeballs, because of the TV ratings. Caitlin Clark the Caitlin Clark effect, Stephanie, will be impacting that as well. And it's about time because these women obviously have been underpaid now for several decades.
Absolutely. The WNBA is now generating millions in revenue, thanks to a combination of increased viewership, partnerships, and growing fan engagement. The league has seen a significant rise in media coverage, particularly with more games being broadcast on networks like ESPN and with partnerships from major brands. This increased visibility has led to greater sponsorship deals, which are essential for generating revenue and enhancing the overall marketability of the players and the league. While it's still not at the scale of the NBA, the WNBA's growth is undeniable. The 2020 collective bargaining agreement, which improves salaries and working conditions for players, reflects the league's acknowledgement of its increasing value. However, as you mentioned, the pay gap is still large compared to the NBA, and there's room for the league to continue to push for better financial compensation and treatment of players. The fact that the WNBA is bringing in millions shows there is a substantial market for women's professional basketball. With the right investments in broadcasting deals, sponsorships, and fan engagement, the league can continue to grow and offer better pay, better facilities, and improved conditions for the athletes who are playing such an important role in that success. As the league continues to grow in popularity, it's likely that future broadcasting deals and sponsorship agreements will help close the pay gap even more, making the WNBA a more financially competitive league for its players.
Now, in context, though, They also got better travel arrangements because they were actually putting these very tall women in coach. They were sharing hotel rooms.
Yeah.
They were riding terrible buses. So we came a long way from where we were. But the bottom line is, you know, the NBA has been in existence for 50 more years than the WNBA.
Yes, this is a critical point. The fact that only 10% of the WNBA's revenues go to player salaries, compared to 40% in the NBA, starkly highlights the disparity not just in revenue generation, but in how that revenue is distributed. This difference isn't just about financial numbers. It speaks to the structure and priorities within the league and its business model for the players. This arrangement means that despite the growing revenues from media rights, sponsorships, and fan engagement, a much smaller portion of that money is going directly to them. In comparison, the NBA's higher percentage allocation to player salaries is one reason why NBA players, even those with less experience, can earn far more than WNBA players. The disparity is even more striking considering that many WNBA players bring similar levels of talent, drive, and marketability to the table. This situation reflects a broader issue of gender-based inequity in sports, where women's leagues often struggle to command the same financial resources and compensation as men's leagues, despite similar or growing demand for the product. The lower percentage allocated to player salaries in the WNBA can be seen as a symptom of a deeper issue, one that involves historical underinvestment in women's sports, limited media exposure, and a lack of bargaining power. The new collective bargaining agreement improves salaries for WNBA players, but it's clear that until there is a structural shift, whether through better revenue sharing, increased investment in women's sports, or more lucrative broadcasting and sponsorship deals, the financial gap between the NBA and the WNBA will remain wide. The argument for better financial compensation for WNBA players is not just about fairness. It's also about the long-term sustainability and growth of the league. Better pay and better conditions could attract even more talent, raise the league's profile, and ensure that players are compensated for their hard work and the significant role they play in the league's success.
Now to the reaction when some fans learned how much professional women's basketball players earn as a base salary compared to the men.
Yeah, Rebecca, it absolutely could. The ratings for Monday's draft rivaled 2003's. That is when LeBron was chosen by the Cavs. And look, the four possible endorsements, the base salary for every WNBA rookie is just a fraction of 1% of the highest paid NBA rookie. But if millions of fans glued to the women's college basketball this year follow those players to the WNBA, there could be a whole different ballgame.
Caitlin Clark's record-breaking jersey sales are a powerful example of the growing market for women's basketball and the untapped potential the WNBA and other women's sports leagues have when it comes to fan engagement and commercial success. Selling more jerseys in 1 hour post-draft than any other player in any sport demonstrates not just Clark's personal star power, but the increasing demand for women athletes and their merchandise. This is a clear signal that if the league and its stakeholders invest more in marketing, better support the athletes, and increase visibility, the financial rewards could be significant. Fans are already showing strong support for athletes like Clark, and the right marketing strategies could amplify that interest, leading to higher revenues from merchandise, ticket sales, media rights, and sponsorships. Historically, women's sports have been underpromoted compared to their male counterparts, but as the demand for female athletes grows, it's becoming more evident that the market is there. With more visibility through social media, TV coverage, and endorsement deals, the WNBA has the potential to build a strong, sustainable fan base that could rival those of men's sports leagues. If the league and the companies involved put the same effort into marketing women's sports as they do in promoting male-dominated sports, it could open up even more lucrative opportunities. Higher visibility and investment could lead to better salaries and conditions for the players, and ultimately help the WNBA reach new heights in terms of revenue and global recognition. Caitlin Clark's jersey sales are just the beginning, and this momentum could drive significant changes for women's basketball in the years to come.
According to Spot Rack, Caitlin Clark, Cameron Brink, Camila Cardozo, Rickea Jackson are all tied for the highest female rookie salaries, estimated to make $76,535 this year. This is slightly less than the average mean wage in America last year.
Are they doing DoorDash on the side to survive? I mean, I know you ain't buying a house on that salary.
Incoming WNBA players like Clark and Angel Reese already cashing in other ways, piggybacking off their NIL deals with endorsements and partnerships that far exceed the WNBA salaries. But most current WNBA players need to supplement their income by playing overseas.
You're absolutely right. Economics is often cited as a reason for the low salaries in women's sports, but history has proven that with proper investment, the returns can be substantial. Women's soccer is a perfect example. Despite initial skepticism about the marketability of women's soccer, the growth of leagues like the NWSL, National Women's Soccer League, and the record-breaking TV deals for the Women's World Cup have shown that there's a huge demand for women's sports when they receive the right investment in promotion, broadcasting, and sponsorships. ESPN, as a key player in sports broadcasting, does indeed have a major role to play in improving the financial standing of the WNBA.